Imagine waking up one day and realizing that absolutely everything around you is just a reflection. The place where you live, the people around you, the situations that keep repeating. None of this is happening to you. It's happening from you. As if the world were an intelligent mirror, shaped not by your conscious desires, but by the invisible pattern of your most intimate thoughts. Have you ever felt like you're always trying to change something, but things insist on staying the same? As if there were an invisible force sabotaging every attempt at a fresh start. You make an effort, you make plans, you commit, but somehow everything slips away. Money doesn't flow, relationships collapse, motivation disappears, and a troubling feeling begins to grow that you're not in control of your own life. And maybe that's true, because what we call reality might be just a simulation, a dense vibrational layer that responds not to what you want, but to what you believe, silently, automatically, unconsciously. What if the problem isn't in what happens, but in who's projecting it? What if the world is just the consequence of what you think, feel, and emit? A mental construction where the outside is only the echo of the inside. There's a principle. It's older than any religion, more powerful than any government, and more hidden than it suits those who run the game. A principle capable of completely changing the way you interact with reality. A forgotten law, passed down by initiates, hidden for centuries, and left as a legacy by a man called Hermes Trismegistus. This law says the following: everything is mine. The universe is mental, and if that's true, then the world you live in is just the direct reflection of the frequency you maintain. It doesn't matter how hard you fight against the circumstances. They will keep coming back until you change what you're emitting. But what if there were a way to do this quickly? A process that allowed you in just 3 days to silence the old codes, install new beliefs, and shift the vibration that shapes your reality. This technique exists, and it will be revealed in this video. But a warning must be given. Once you understand what you're about to hear, there will be no turning back, because the world around you will never be the same again. But for that to happen, it's necessary to understand a truth that most have never dared to face, an idea that doesn't belong to the modern world, but predates religions, civilizations, and even science as we know it. The ancient sages said that everything in the universe is born from a single source, and that this source is not physical. It's not matter, it's mind. This revelation is recorded in the first of the 7 Hermetic laws, a hidden principle known as the law of mentalism. According to it, the entire universe is mental, which means that all reality, visible or invisible, is a projection of the universal mind, and that every living being carries within them a spark of this creative mind. In other words, everything that exists is manifested consciousness, and you, even without realizing it, are constantly influencing the world around you through the content that fills your mind. But there's an even more unsettling detail. This influence does not depend on your rational will. It does not respond to what you consciously think. It reacts to the vibration you sustain continuously, even when you're not paying attention. That's why so many people keep wishing for one thing and attracting exactly the opposite, because the universe doesn't hear what you want. It mirrors what you are. And what you are most of the time is only the result of the beliefs that were installed in you without consent. Imagine your mind as the fertile soil of a garden. Since birth, seeds have been sown there, some with love, others with pain. Most of them you didn't even notice, but all of them began to grow silently. And today, without realizing it, you are harvesting the fruits of those planted ideas, phrases you heard in childhood, rejections you brushed off, frustrations you swallowed in silence. All of that became code, and that code turned into reality. The law of mentalism teaches that there is no separation between the internal and the external, that what you experience on the outside is only a reflection of what vibrates within. But it also teaches something even more powerful. If everything is mental, then everything can be rewritten, because the mind, being the origin of everything, also holds the power to transmute everything. And this is the key that few have the courage to use, because it demands total responsibility. There are no more culprits, no more bad luck, only the reflection of your own mental field in the form of the world. You can see this as a threat, or you can see it as freedom. The freedom not to depend on circumstances, not to beg for luck, not to mold yourself to others' expectation. The freedom to create a new reality, not through force, but through frequency. Because matter does not resist the mind. Form always yields to content, and the content is you. This is where the journey begins to change direction. Because from the moment you understand that the world you live in is merely the vibrational translation of your mind, you stop being the piece on the board and start becoming the player. And when you take this place of origin, everything around you begins to reorganize in response. But the reorganization doesn't happen by chance. It requires a conscious step, an internal shift, a rupture with the old way of operating. It's like waking from a hypnotic state and, for the first time, opening your eyes within your own dream. Except in this case, the awakening doesn't come with a jolt. It comes with silence, because the first step to changing reality is not action. It's ceasing. Yes, ceasing. Stop repeating. Stop reacting. Stop following the automatic impulses that keep you trapped in the cycle you say you want to leave. The mind, when slowed down, reveals the hidden mechanisms that operate behind everything. And that's exactly why the first of the 3 days is dedicated to silence. A silence that is not the absence of sound, but the absence of distraction. A withdrawal where the main goal is not to understand the mind, but to observe what it produces when you don't interfere. Because it is there that you find the code that needs to be rewritten. During the first 24 hours, the invitation is radical. Turn off external voices. No social media, no music, no news, no shallow conversations. The focus is to create an inner space where the noise of repetition can't hide. You have no idea how conditioned you are until you silence the world and listen to your own mind. And in that empty space, something begins to emerge. A pattern, a frequency, a kind of invisible trail. You begin to see not what's wrong on the outside, but what's programmed on the inside. And that awareness in itself is already the beginning of change. On the second day, once the mind has detoxed from the excess of stimulation, the transforming element comes in. The word, the spoken word with intention. Not as an empty affirmation, but as a vibrational command. The word, according to ancient traditions, is sound that shapes the invisible. That's why the world was said to have been created by the word, because sound organizes mental substance. So now that you're no longer distracted, it's time to start programming. During this second 24-hour cycle, you will repeat hermetic affirmations twice a day, at dawn and before going to sleep. These are the times when the mind is most receptive, more pliable, and more vulnerable to what you wish to install. But these are not ordinary affirmations. They are declarations grounded in the law of mentalism itself. Phrases like, "My mind commands form. Reality responds to what I vibrate, not to what I fear. The external world serves me because I recognize my creative center. Repetition is not superstition, it is technique." The mind needs to hear in order to record. It needs to record in order to emit. And it needs to emit in order to transform. It's natural that on this second day you feel resistance. The old mind tries to survive. It will want you to find all of this ridiculous, exhausting, and pointless. It will bring doubt, self-sabotage, and fatigue. It's the defense mechanism of the old pattern. Don't give in. Keep going. Because every mental reprogramming crosses the threshold of discomfort, and those who go beyond that boundary find an entirely new field on the other side. And then comes the third day, the phase of integration. Now that the old code has been silenced and the new one has begun to install, it's time to activate, to visualize, to hold for a few minutes the vivid image of the reality you want to live. Not as something distant, but as something already happening. Here, imagination becomes a sacred tool, because the brain does not distinguish what you see on the outside from what you feel on the inside. And when you combine deep breathing with image and emotion, you open a direct channel between the mind and the vibrational field. This exercise should be done for just 10 minutes. 10 minutes of rhythmic breathing, active visualization, and full presence. You will imagine life as if you were already on the other side, as if everything had already happened. You will feel the emotion of having achieved it, of already living it. And in that state, you send to the universe not a request, but a command, a signal, a new frequency that must be answered. These 3 days are a ritual not in the religious sense, but energetic. They are 3 portals: silence, word, and vision. When properly applied, there's no way reality can remain intact. It must bend, it must adapt, it must respond, because that's how the field works. It doesn't respond to appearance, it responds to vibration. And during these 3 days, you are not just wishing for a new life. You are vibrating as someone who already lives it. The method is simple, but it is not superficial. And those who apply it truthfully realize something that can no longer be ignored. The outer world is only the delay with which the inner reality reveals itself. That's why what you change in 3 days transforms what you will experience over the next months, years, or even lifetimes, because the entire universe is listening, and it responds to your vibration with precision. But this vibrational response doesn't occur at the level of what you say you want. It happens at the level of what you believe to be true. Reality doesn't listen to your desires. It reads your beliefs. And that's why even with good intentions, so many people remain trapped in the same patterns of scarcity, rejection, and repetition, because the field doesn't obey what's spoken aloud, but what is recorded as truth deep within the mind. These silent truths, often invisible even to the one who carries them, are the codes that constantly shape life. Each belief functions like a command running in the background. You may not see it, but it's there, executing instructions that were installed long ago. Inheritance ideas, phrases heard in childhood, misunderstood experiences. All of this turns into language, mental language, and that language defines the limits of what you believe to be possible, acceptable, and deserved. Think of the mind as an operating system. What you live is what was programmed. And the most unsettling part is that most of that code wasn't written by you. It was installed, often without your consent. Phrases like, "Money is dirty," "No one stays by my side," "Life is hard," "Everything goes wrong for me." You may not even remember hearing that directly. But if it was felt intensely at some point in your life, there's a strong chance it was recorded. And if it's recorded, it's emitting. And if it's emitting, it's creating. Reality has no will of its own. It only mirrors what you vibrate, and you vibrate what you believe. That's why simply wishing for a new life is not enough. You have to uninstall the old system that still projects the past. And that system is made of beliefs, not only the ones you're aware of, but especially the ones that are hidden, the ones that act behind your thoughts, your behaviors, your choices. When you look at your own life and notice that certain patterns repeat, it's not bad luck, it's programming. And any programming can only be changed when you recognize the code. That requires a level of attention that goes beyond logic. You need to feel what's operating behind your reactions, your justifications, your story. That's where the most powerful commands reside. And that's also where true rewriting begins. There's no way to change the world without first changing the structure that projects that world from within you. The law of mentalism doesn't distinguish between conscious and unconscious belief. It only manifests what is most active in your vibration. And the most active vibration is almost never the one you wish it were. It's the one that was repeated the most, the one that hurt the most, the one that left the deepest mark. But what was installed can be replaced. What was learned can be reeducated. What was vibrated for so long can be transmuted. The mind is plastic. Consciousness is moldable. And beliefs are not definitive sentences. They are just memories that became identity. You don't need to keep carrying truths that aren't even yours, nor live within a script written by someone else. Reprogramming reality begins with the courage to look inward and say, "This thought is not mine. This fear doesn't belong to me. This limitation is not who I am." When you begin to do that, the codes begin to break down. And for the first time, the world stops repeating what you never wanted and starts responding to who you finally chose to be. From the moment this vision sets in, there's no going back to who you were, because what has been seen can no longer be unseen. The illusion of chance begins to crumble. Victim stories lose their meaning, and the responsibility for your own world ceases to be a burden to become a power. The law of mentalism is not just a philosophical concept. It is a tool, a way to operate life from the origin, not from the consequence. When you understand that everything is mind, you realize there are no definitive barriers between desire and fulfillment, between thought and form, between intention and manifestation. The distance between where you are and what you want is not measured in time or effort, but in vibration. And that vibration is adjustable daily by breathing differently, thinking differently, choosing differently. The practice of reprogramming the mind then ceases to be an isolated technique and becomes a way of being. You begin to live with awareness, to speak with intention, to think with purpose, and little by little, this new way of existing in the world begins to shape the results you reap. Relationships change, responses change, even time changes, because everything starts operating in resonance with what you sustain internally. This is not about magic. It's about consciousness, about recognizing that there are laws that govern the invisible with more precision than any system you can see. And by aligning your mind with these laws, chaos organizes itself. The unlikely manifests, the impossible draws near. Hermes Trismegistus said, "As above, so below, as within, so without, as the whole, so is the part, as the invisible, so is the visible." This is the password of creation, the bridge between you and everything that exists. Because in the end, reality is not something that happens to you. It is something that responds to you, to every thought, to every belief, to every word you utter without noticing. Knowing this is the first step. Living it every day is the true awakening. And if you've made it this far, something within you has already begun to change. You are no longer in the same place where you started. You are someone else, and the world inevitably has already begun to shape itself to this new version that is emerging. If this message resonated with you, leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. This helps spread this awareness to more people. In the comments, write, "I am the mind that projects my reality." Share this video with someone who needs to remember the power they hold. This is the first in a series of 7 videos where we'll explore the foundations of each of the Hermetic laws. Stay tuned to the channel. In the coming days, you'll discover the concepts of the law of correspondence like you've never seen before. Sometimes, a simple silent awakening can change everything around. Remember, it's not the world that shapes who you are. It's who you are that sculpts, day by day, the world you live in.